Who are you really? Most of us answer that question based off of what we believe about ourselves when life is calm. We list our strengths, values, and identity. But here's the real question: how much of that is proven, and how much of it is just an assumption? Because we feel patient when nothing is pushing our limits. We feel strong when nothing is weighing us down. We feel confident when nothing is challenging us. Not to create a new identity, but to expose the one that's already there. What's going on, my curious and intellectual people? Welcome back to Intrigue and Insights, where deep conversations meet everyday life, looking beyond the obvious to uncovering meaning, challenge assumption, and find wisdom in places most people overlook. I'm your host, Terrence Tyler. Today, we're looking into this idea. You don't really know who you are until life tests it. I once read this book years ago by a guy named Howard Hendricks. RIP to him. He died 2013. He was a teacher at a Bible seminary school, one of the best seminary schools, may I add. And he wrote this book called Teaching to Change Lives. Now, in this book, he discussed 4 learning levels. I want to share those with you because they impacted me tremendously in understanding where I was before I read the book and also where I was when I read the book, and gave me a broader understanding of growth and development. So the 4 principles is, let me pull up on the internet, of course. My mind can only remember so much. That's that old age. So don't get old. It's impossible, inevitable. You're getting there. But I recommend taking notes or using resources to help you out. I'm just saying, old people, put some respect in my age. Anyways, unconscious incompetence, conscience incompetence, conscience competence, and unconscious competence. Now, as I said, these are 4 learning levels. Now, when I first read this book, I understood that there was a lot that I knew about myself, but I don't think I understood it to the point to utilize it in the development of where I was in life and me growing up because of my surroundings, my education, my exposure was very limited, and not to mention rejected. I only wanted what I wanted. That's a major part. One of the biggest things about me is because I'm very strong willed, I come to the realization that a lot of times we don't change, grow, and develop is because we don't want to. At the end of the day, there's certain things that appeals to us, and there's a lot of things that don't appeal to us. Now, the reason why and what determines individually according to the person. But anyhow, so when I did learn these concepts, they were profound for me. They helped me. But then it was limited, as you're either in one of these at one point in your life and then you grow to the other and then it's over. No, that's not true. That that's not development. So when you look at a skill or a trade, you learn these techniques and you use them in every situation that suits the best situation. So what do I mean when I say that? These 4 learning levels are not just, oh, I was here when I was younger. Now I'm mature, I'm here. Now no. Because There's a lot to learn when it comes to development and understanding the process and the progress that you'll go through from one stage to other. You're going to always go back to one in a different area in your life, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, relational. We come across a lot of different things. So then I seen it vaguely. I seen it as an aspect of something, of saying that, hey, this is where I was at. Now that I got this and I understand this, this is where I'm at. But then it can actually produce a level of pride in you and thinking that you're greater than what you really are. But it also can produce into you humility, to understanding how you learn and where you're at when you're learning. And with that, you can actually know and move forward to where you want to grow at and what you need to do to get there. So, anyways, let me explain these 4 concepts. This is really not about the podcast. This is just something that helped me to understand this. Like I said, we don't know who we are until life tests it. And sometimes understanding these learning concepts can help us be able to accept it and understand it. So, you know what? Maybe I should do a podcast specifically on these 4 learning levels. I don't know. We'll see. The future might tell. So, unconscious incompetence. What unconscious incompetence is, you are ignorant and do not know it, meaning you don't know yet you're ignorant. You lack both the awareness of a skill and the ability to perform it. Conscious incompetence. You realize you lack a specific skill. You are now aware of your deficiencies, but you do not yet possess the ability to perform. Conscious competence. You have begun to learn the skill, but executing it requires careful, deliberate concentration and effort. Unconscious competence. You have achieved mastery. The skill has become second nature, like brushing your teeth every morning, like drinking water to survive, like eating when your stomach is growling. And you can perform it effortless and without consciously thinking about every step. So, for me, this was profound because one thing I always had was confidence of who I was as an individual as far as characteristics and traits. But one thing that I knew I did not have is how to use it. So I've always wanted mentors, leaders, guidance, someone to give me that proven certainty of who I was. I remember I was 10 or 11. I believe I shared this in a different podcast. I'm not sure. But I'm going to share it here again because I think it correlates with this. I remember when I was a kid, I was 10, 11 years old, and I wanted this outer body experience. And the reason why I wanted that is because I wanted to be able to come outside of me, stand before me, and look at me and tell me who I am. Now, I didn't have that in my life. I had my mother who worked 2 jobs, and she did everything she could to make sure that she gives us the best thing that we needed, moving us out of the hood, moving us to a, I guess, better hood. To be honest with you, we moved from Salt Park to Ailey, but it wasn't as harsh and brutal as it was in Salt Park. I mean, at the age of 8, 9, I seen people get murdered right before my face. just trying to go get a haircut. I've seen drugs being used. Man, I just seen a lot. I'm not even go down there. But she moved us to a place where it wasn't that broad and open. You really kind of had to get yourself into it, which I did. Crazy part. But so I didn't have a father figure in my life. And my mom worked so much and she really didn't have the educational properties herself to be able to pour that into me, but she moved me somewhere where I can possibly get it, which it worked out. I mean, look at me now. Just saying. Thank you, mother. Salutes to you. Anyhow, so I didn't have that person that I can get that type of mentorship from. So I wanted that as a child. And this right here reminded me of that. As I grew up, I started living through life. I started seeing how these traits were being developed the wrong way. And what ended up happening is when I came to Christ, I started realizing that everything that I needed, I already had. I was just applying it the wrong way. Reading this book, Teaching to Change Lives. Part of the journey on understanding how to change my own life and also help others. Shout out Intriguing Insights. But anyhow, let's go ahead and jump into this thing. So, from this age growing up, I became my own mentor. Unfortunately, I had other people that invested in me in certain ways by trying to place me in things that was different than what we knew and understood in the hood. Track meets, swim teams, take me out, you know, reading, stuff like that. But I wasn't big into reading then. Videos of history and stuff like that, kind of understanding that I'm a big fan and understanding that if you don't understand your history, then it's going to repeat. So educating yourself is very valuable and profound in order to move and elevate from that. I learned whenever you experience various trials, knowing that the testing produces endurance, but endurance must be complete work so that you may mature, because affliction produces proven character. Now let's jump into this podcast. So what I've learned through my life and seen that many of us claim labels, identities, personality traits, attributes without the verification of life circumstances to say this is true. But this makes me think, why? So I asked myself, what is the difference between knowledge and understanding? Well, knowledge is information that you've acquired, but understanding is information that you have experienced. So, is understanding deeper than knowledge? I would say yes. Understanding is knowledge that survived the reality. It is knowing why it is true, how it is true, and what to do with it. So then, why does people struggle with identity in spite of having access to unlimited knowledge? So, the problem isn't lack of information. The problem is lack of formation. We live in a world that constantly tells us what to buy, what to think, who to imitate. But very little of it tells us how to become who we were created to be. Information fills our mind. Identity shapes a person. So that means information doesn't create confidence. Confidence is built on what you experience. Over time, when you start practicing the traits, the skills, the mindsets, the attributes, the belief systems to life, you build confidence every day, every time that it was proven. Let me share something with you. And this is on the negative side. But this is how I was able to learn and bridge the two gaps. Not one criminal on this earth ever did a crime without witnessing the fear that comes with it. The first time that they experienced it, they had that fear. But when they achieved the goal without getting caught, the fear slightly disappears. They do it again, disappears. They do it again, then the activity becomes numb. This is how we operate as human beings, period. Secondly, as they continue doing this, they go from being numb to being seared. Their conscience becomes seared. So when I'm talking about that conscience. The conscience becomes seared and the fear goes away. What do I mean by seared? Have you ever been burnt before and you have that little bruise, that decoloration of your skin or whatever is soft, and you touch it, you have no feeling from it? That's being seared. That's what their conscience has been. So over time, the fear went away because their conscience was seared and they became confident in what they were doing. So therefore they continued doing it positively. That is what it does to us as well. Information creates awareness. Then we have to take that awareness, see how it fits us and suit us according to our purpose, our personality, our identity. And then the experience becomes confidence. Over time, we continue to practice speaking it for people, flipping those burgers at McDonald's, going to jobs instead of being rejected and getting certain jobs, I guess, and getting approved at certain jobs, not liking that job, go to another one. Getting into fields that we've never have done before. And even the fact of doing something that we never have done before. All of these things, once they're done consistently, it builds a confidence in us that we start seeing in ourselves that we can do this. But it's only done when it's experienced. It's not going to be done by information. It's not going to be done because we fill our brains with knowledge. No, it doesn't make you confident. It's proven knowledge to your life that determines whether or not that confidence is built. It's only by the experience that it creates that confidence. So, can a person know the truth about themselves but live life as though it's not true? Absolutely. And people do it every day. They know they're capable, but still act fearful. They know they are valuable and still seek validation. They know they are resilient, but still avoid challenges. Awareness doesn't automatically produce transformation. Many people know the truth intellectually while continuing to live old beliefs emotionally and behaviorally. But why does that happen? Well, because knowledge hasn't yet become understanding. Information changes the mind, but transformation requires a renewal of beliefs, identity, and behavior. The greatest gap in life is not between ignorance and knowledge. It's between knowledge and embodiment. So let's talk about something that is rarely brought up and it's not widely talked about And we tend to miss that mark. And that's the gap that's in between. Once we understand the difference between knowledge and understanding, the next question becomes, why is there such a large gap between the two? So, what do you see happening in people's lives regarding identity? I see people protecting identities they've never tested. They want certainty about who they are without being challenged. All the time, people say this about themselves, and they expect you to immediately take it for face value and to prove it. Now, some of this can be off the fact that they're just trying to prove to themselves that this what it is. And some of it can be in the fact that they're just putting on an image. Because that is also a thing where we just want people to see us how we want them to see us. And it's based off of what we're showing them. But that's really not true. For instance, if you're really sad, but you want to act like you're happy. For another example, if you call yourself to be a religious person, but you really don't even believe in Christ. If you want to perceive to be intelligent, but you're really just smart, there's a difference. I'm just saying. So we want this to automatically be stated that this is a part of our identity without it being tested, meaning without someone challenging it. Because such as myself, I will always ask questions pertaining to this statement that you make. Be like, okay, let's see how true it is. And it's not malicious or anything like that. It's really just to get a good understanding, especially if the relationship is trying to move further than what it's supposed to be. Especially, it's kind of like an interview. Let's put it like that. When you go and look for a job, you say, I have these type of qualities that I am certified to be in this field. The employer is going to question you about this to prove whether or not you can stand up to the point of what you're saying that's on paper. It's proven character. Do you really have these skills? Do you really have these traits? It's the same way we should be doing with our lives when we're living. Not with just with others, but also to ourselves. And not just expecting someone to immediately accept that, because a lot of times that's what we're doing. We're saying things without testing it ourselves, and we just want everybody to accept that for what that is. And that's not how it should be. Because that might not be who you are. That might be who you want to be, which is nothing wrong with that. But are you drawing that gap? Are you going from the awareness to the understanding and actually making this practical? So why is this a problem? Well, because untested identity is fragile identity, meaning it's not solid. It's like saying that you have a strong back, but when you go to do a back exercise, you can't even do more than 25 pounds. It's like saying that you're a great expector, but then when you're put on the job to expect the merchandise or the product, you're not detail oriented enough to be able to catch all of the flaws to keep this job from losing money or even losing the clients that they have to continue to build and grow and to make funds. It's like saying that you are a certain person in a relationship with someone else when this relationship could then flourish because y'all have not only mutuality with one another, but you are also comparable and compatible at the same time, where you two together can actually interdependently build one another up to a greater point. Those things matter. What happens when life challenge what we believe about ourselves? Well, we often discover whether our identity is rooted in conviction or comfort. Because conviction moves you, drives you, motivates you, and convinces you to continue to go off of what you believe. Whereas comfort does nothing, doesn't challenge you at all. You're just relaxed. You're at ease. You're stagnant. You're complacent. So, can comfort hide weaknesses in our identity? Absolutely. Comfort can make us think that we're stronger than what we are because nothing is requiring us to use that strength. So therefore, we say that we're strong, but until a circumstances in our life presses down on us and we're able to remain up under it and push it off of us and get through to the next phase of that situation, we can believe that we're something that we're not. Because whether we realize it or not, when most challenges comes to people, we kind of maneuver and go to what is more comfortable. We find escapes, defense mechanisms, coping mechanisms in order to bear it. And this is internally and externally. A lot of times that we say that we're emotionally strong, but we're using other things in order to cope with these emotions in order to push through and make it. And it can be habits, any habit, anything that you're utilizing to not feel the intensity of what you are experiencing in order for you to be able to deal with it, you might not be as strong as what you say you are in that area. Why do people sometimes panic when life changes? Because many identities are built around circumstances rather than character. So what do I mean by this? When people identify with a role, a job, a relationship, achievement, a status, any threat to one of these things can make them feel like a threat to who you are. So what does these awarenesses, these observations, these points that answer the questions that were given, what does that tell us? That our identity is not fully developed through what we know. It's developed through what we experience. We got to get active. It's nothing wrong with learning information. It's nothing wrong with gaining knowledge. But you got to start putting it to work. You got to see if that's true for you. Even with other people's experience, it becomes knowledge to you. my experience, becomes knowledge to you. My podcast, everything that I'm putting forth, it's knowledge to you. It's based off of my experience. And even though you can relate to the lifestyle or just relate to the human concepts of what we deal with on an everyday basis, they might not be your struggle. They might not be the area that you need a development. They might not even be where God is trying to work through you at. Because He prioritized your life. He prioritized it better than you. You might think that you need financial gain. He might think that you need emotional maturity. Because I'm going to be real with you. Some of us be chasing after that bag, but because of our mentality and our immature emotional development, you'll get that bag, and before you know it, you'll be right back broke. Because you haven't developed what you need to develop to get it and keep it. So, is that often why growth feels uncomfortable? Yes. That's exactly why. Because when you're comfortable, you're not being challenged. You're not being pushed. You're not being tested. Growth usually requires experiences that challenge what you currently believe. Why are challenges often connected to identity development? Because it draws the gap between what you say you believe and what you actually think is true. Some people say that eating fast food is unhealthy, but eat it frequently. I was told as a child that smoking was bad for you, but the person telling me was smoking. You believe it. It's factual. The cigarette carton tells you that. The calorie count on the chart tells us that. But do we think it's true? No. Because if you thought it was true, then you'll be doing everything that you need to do in order to do what's healthy. Make sure you have a meal plan. Make sure you cook accordingly. I would like to state before this is not a one shoe fit all concept that like you're just choosing to live an ultimate bad life. The thing is that you might not understand the difference between the knowledge that you're giving and experiencing it and what to do with it. The gap. Again, it's the things that's in between that space being able to do it. Okay, so a lot of us eat this fast food because it's convenient. And convenience often can be considered good or bad. Badly is because it becomes consistent and it becomes a habit. When you're using convenience in an everyday lifestyle, then it makes you complacent in areas that can be detrimental to your life. But when you're using it out of inconvenience, meaning every once in a while thing, then it's beneficial to get you through that moment. But if it's something that's consistently happening all the time, then it's not good for you. So we choose fast food because it's convenient, because we wasn't able to cook that day. We didn't have dinner ready, and we didn't pack our lunch. So we go and we get something convenient. I do it. McDonald's, that's my convenience spot. Subway is a convenience spot. But what I get there is I get the tuna salad at Subway. I get the quarter pounder, no cheese, no bun. Get two of them, double quarter pounder, because it's 100% beef. But I only get it when I have to. I don't get it consistently every day because I set up for myself in between, like, hey, I want to continue with a healthy diet. So therefore, by continuing a healthy diet, I looked at my own life and my circumstances, and I realized what I was doing, what I wanted, and in between, I made those small incremental steps in order to make sure that I can achieve. I wanted to eat healthy and being able to cut out the convenience of eating fast food because I don't have what I need in order to survive. And that's eat. It's a need. Just saying. So I'm just saying that we have to do our homework and kind of understand ourselves, understand our goals, and understand where we at in these processes to be able to draw a bridge from one to the other so that way we can make it across safely. So that means adversity becomes a mirror. Absolutely. It reflects back to us the truth of what's inside of us. The test of challenges, trials, and adversity and affliction reflects what's in eternally. And with this awareness and with this truth, we can then ask questions on how to fix it. So, could it be that some struggles are revealing something to us rather than punishing us? It's possible. Not all difficulties are meant to break us. Some exist to show us what we're made of. So it's kind of like a push or encouragement to kind of move us towards what we are allowing ourselves to be comfortable with and complacent in. One thing I know about trials is that they do two things. They test us to reveal what's inside of us, and they challenge us to build character. And so what if we find out that we're stronger than what we think? Then you might be starting to get my point. To realize that experience shows you something that information alone can never do. If tension reveals the gap between knowledge and understanding, the next question is, how does that gap actually get closed? It starts when we ask that question. When do people gain the clearest understanding of themselves? It's often through moments of uncertainty, adversity, loss, failure, and transition. These are the things that we avoid. And I know there's certain personalities specifically that stray away from conflict. But it suits human nature as a whole. When we do not want to collide with a certain type of altercation, we actually avoiding that moment to understand who we really are. When we don't allow our anger to be expressed a certain way, you might miss out what you're passionate about. Because if it's a justful matter, if it's an offensive situation, or if it's one where someone takes advantage of you by you not expressing why it upset you, a person would never know that what they're doing is actually harming you. So, what role does failure play in understanding identity? Failure can expose where we have attached worth with performance rather than with character. But can character strengthen identity? Yeah, it can. When we learn that our value survives failure. So, why do some people emerge stronger after hardship? Well, because they was able to realize things within themselves that they never had the opportunity to see before. And what kind of things is that? Resilience, patience, courage, perseverance, wisdom, and adaptability. So, and this is just for clarity, to make sure we understand how serious of understanding the concept of the process and the gap in between these areas in lives, because not just what I'm talking about with understanding and knowledge, or knowledge and understanding, regardless, but so that way we can actually see the 1, 2, 3 steps and not the leaps and jumps that we try to take towards life. Because what I'm speaking about the gap in between the two and understanding that what can help in such a way to know that who you are and who you want to be, and the bridge in between the two has to be tested and what it looks like for those tests. So I asked this question: what is experience actually doing? Experience is turning concepts into conviction. And what's the difference? Concepts are something you know. Convictions are something you trust. They're deeply rooted in you. You know, without a shadow of doubt in your mind, what your convictions actually are. So then we ask, is life creating our identity, or is it exposing it? Actually, it's doing both. Again, like I said, tests, trials, and afflictions, they do two things. They expose what's inside of us, whether if it's good or bad, and they produce character. It makes you stronger. It builds all on top of what you already are. But life is often revealing strengths, values, and beliefs that are already in you. They're just beneath the surface. So, is experience always the point? The understanding gained from the experience is often the greatest lesson. Now, here is where this conversation takes an unexpected turn. What if we've been chasing the wrong thing all along? What if people need more information? What if they need to experience what they already know? That's a completely different way of looking at growth, isn't it? Yes, growth may be less about learning new truths and more about embodying the existing ones. What if the challenge isn't lacking identity? What if the challenge is trusting the identity that already exists? We too busy looking for things that we don't have rather than trusting in the things that we already have. The things that you've been building the whole time until right now, is the very thing that you need to start trusting in order to gain the things that you want from the future. Because without these being properly understood and recognized and proven to be truth, then what you're talking about gaining here in the future would not have the strength to be able to endure what you are not capable of comprehending. So why is trust so important? Because understanding grows on what we know in spite of uncertainty. If that is true, then the practical question would be, how do we intentionally move from knowledge to understanding? Look at the reaction under pressure. They reveal what you truly believe. Why reactions? Because pressure tends to expose convictions more honestly than comfort. And what should people ask themselves during difficult circumstances? Go from, why is this happening to me, to what is this revealing to me? Because there's a difference. One is an explanation. The other is seeking understanding. So how do I transformation to wisdom? Through reflection. Experience alone doesn't teach. Reflected experience teaches. So, what's the ultimate lesson of this conversation we had today? Don't just gain information about who you are. Look for opportunities to experience it. So, when do we know who we truly are? When life tests what we know, when we discover through experience what is actually true. Knowledge introduces identity. Experience tests identity. But understanding transforms identity into convictions. If you heard something today that helped you understand that you have been claiming something about your identity that has been unproven, that has not been tested, because you have rejected the challenges, the afflictions, to stay comfortable with who you thought you were or believe you were. And it has helped you to now accept when someone asks you why. What is it? Where have you been applying it? Click that subscribe button. Follow me. Share with someone that you think that this might help them to move forward, to understand who they really are, so it correlates with their life and they're actually able to move up and elevate towards a better them. Don't be afraid to comment. Get in those comments, man. Let's chat. Let's talk about it. Let's see what it is. And maybe we can dialogue with one another and have one of those fruitful intellectual conversations, because I love them. That's why I do this podcast, man. This is really just what I'm looking for. I need to get some more guests on my show so that way we can have them together, because, yeah, this is what I love to do. But anyhow, remember, clarity doesn't come from easy answers, but from the courage to ask the hard ones. So stay curious, stay open, and keep looking deeper. Peace.